Hello. Today I'm talking with Oana Juncu. We talked about privilege, about making people proud, and the design of ALE, Agile and Lean Europe conferences. I'm Yves Hanul from Who's Agile. My pronouns are he and him. Welcome to my channel. You see a lot of agilists around me on this screen. If you want to hear me interviewing, please click that subscribe button because these are the people that I've invited so far. If you think I'm missing people, let me know in the comments. And that like button, well, if you liked today's interview, don't forget to click it. Hello, everyone, and hello, Oana. Oana Juncu. And before we jump into this, I actually want to show people a little bit on the screen. This is where I am in Belgium, and I want to show us a little bit. We're moving to Paris and to Mile. Is this how I should pronounce it? I think
Mol,
it is.
hi Eve.
Yes,
Hello everyone. Mol, we call it
yes.
mol. Yeah,
And let's bring you back on screen. It's almost 8 o'clock in the evening in Belgium. And what's the time zone that you're in?
almost 8 o'clock. Likewise.
So we see that Belgium and Paris is not that far away, or Ghent and Paris is not that far away. We're still in the same time zones. It takes about 4 hour drive or something like that to your house. Last time I've been there, so that's about how we are. Um, I'm really looking forward to this because for the people that know one of us or both of us, we actually know each other for a long time. We've created a coach retreat and some other things we've done together. So it's one of the conversations I'm really looking forward to. So welcome. And Oana, for the few people that don't know you, could you, before we go into the questions, tell us a little bit who you are?
Thank you, Eve, for inviting me. And once again, hello everyone. I love the way you say that for the few people that don't know me. I take it as a compliment. I think there are a lot of people that don't know me. It's normal. The agile community is growing. So I am Oana Juncu. I'm living in France, and I'm working with agile group dynamics since 2006 or 7, so it's quite a while. I was mesmerized by the efficiency and how teams can thrive when they implement agile. So since then, I was driven by my curiosity to understand, why does it work? Why does it work? So
Mhm.
I get trained not only in agile but also in group dynamics, systemic coaching, like clean language, for example, appreciative inquiry. And today I picked in so many things, including design thinking, creating great products. Everyone is creative. The way that I like to present myself is that I'm an agile business and leadership DJ who mixes whatever practices make individuals and teams become proud of their outcomes.
That's a nice way to put it. To create people that are proud of their outcomes. I think that's a really nice goal to have with people, and to when people would work with you. This yeah, that's indeed a very nice statement to have. So let's jump into that first question. What is something that people usually don't know about you, but has influenced you in who you are?
Mm, yes, there's something that is that people might not know about me. Really, I didn't really state it. I was A plus grade student in
Wow.
my high school, in the high school time. So that created me some trouble to choose my profession, because I was really passionate about literature, languages, and mathematics.
Everything.
Exactly, like everything. So like, what can I do with all this? And the one it was my father's advice, because I to look into software development.
Mhm.
And because I was an a a plus student, I wanted to study something that was very hard and very appreciated, like aeronautics, you know,
Mm.
plane engines. And my father told me, "Are you sure that you're passionate about planes?" And my answer was, "No, I don't care about planes." But it's very well known school. And he told me, maybe you want to consider software development, computer science. And actually,
Mm.
I considered computer science and I thrived in computer science because, and at the end, what I'm saying today, actually, computer science and being a software developer allowed me to apply everything that I loved, because it's learning new languages all the time.
Mm.
I love languages. So, what's better than developing software than learning languages? Mathematics, that is the easy part. Is a lot of engineering and literature. I considered myself as a software developer to being a writer that writes stories.
Mm.
Every piece of code is a story. Has a narrative, doesn't it?
Wow,
So,
that's yeah, that's a nice way of looking, and especially in the agile world, when we talk about user stories, that's even more. But
yeah.
you probably jumped into that even earlier. So
Mhm.
that is yeah, a very nice story about how that actually you were almost destined to become, or to go for the wrong direction, where your father kind of guided you a little bit in with that question. Did that question surprise you when he asked that about the planes?
Mm, no, not really, because I kind of knew that I'm not interested in planes. I was just interested in the best school ever that was on the market. And the fact that he mirrored it to me, are you sure that you're passionate about planes? Because this is a very specific profession. If you choose it, you can't go anywhere else easily. And he told me
Mm,
computer and software will conquer all the companies. No company will ever will work without software. And that was a very interesting speech for me. That was what caught my
what you
attention.
needed, what you needed.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's really good, and I like the two parts. The fact, indeed, are you passionate about planes? That's a really
Mm,
powerful question.
mm,
And on top of that, and it was also a very clean way of stating it.
mm.
Not saying this is not for you. It's really a question. So that's already very nice. And at the same time, also the message like, okay, you might be stuck into one place, and software, yeah, gives you basically access to the rest of the world. That's also a very nice statement, because you could have run into the wrong kind of software company in the beginning, but there were still other options, where if
Exactly.
you run into aviation, that, yeah, might feel much more stuck. I'm not sure how true that is these days, because I see a lot of people moving around independent from what they've studied, but definitely it
Yeah.
gives more options in
Well,
software, I would.
I think that there was something specific, if I can add. It's more about people might not know. Well, they know about me. So I'm coming from Romania, and that
Mm.
discussion was happening still in times of communist Romania. So everything
Oh.
that was linked to aviation might have been very much uh, very confidential and secret and under Securitate, observed by the Securitate, that kind
So
of
for
society.
clarity, you didn't study in France at that moment. You studied in Romania,
Yeah, I
just to
was
make
in
it.
Romania. Yeah, yeah, for clarity. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I think there was
I
something
kind of knew
also.
that, but I think it's important for other people because we talked that
Yeah,
you're living now close to Paris.
yeah, exactly.
And so, is it also correct to state then that software helped you to move out of your country, or is that completely
Exactly.
independent?
No,
Mm.
no, that exactly. Exactly. It
So that
had
is that
yeah,
indeed your father was right. It opened the world to you, so not just other kind of companies, but it actually allowed you to move on and to go to France at a certain point in your life.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for sharing that extra piece of information, which I knew, but I wasn't sure how important it was for this part of the story. So thanks for adding that little nudge to it. Let's move to that second question. That if you had not been doing what you've been doing now, what would have become of you? Was there anything you were destined? We kind of heard already, like aviation, you were looking for it, but you were not really destined to that.
Mhm.
Was there anything else in your life when you were young, for example, that you thought or you dreamt about becoming? What was that little Oana thinking about, if you still
Something that
remember?
something that always attracted me um, was grace, being gracious. So I've done a lot
Mm,
of ballet, classical dancing, and
wow.
I love to dance. I still love a class, the Nutcracker, and my my dream, the ballet from Tchaikovsky's ballet, and when I was little, maybe a lot of people dreamed about that. I dreamed to be a very gracious princess. I was living in the world of stories, fairy tales, and princesses. And yeah, I think I would have loved to be also a writer. I read a lot.
Mm,
I was very fond of romantic novels of 19th century. Thackeray, Charlotte Bronte. Um,
mm. So really, the
yeah,
romantic age
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
authors and books that
yeah.
is indeed. So
Victorian.
you, as that little girl reading these books, were also dreaming about writing at that moment, or was that just I just like to be in these fairy tales, or nothing
No,
about writing?
I was thinking about writing. Actually, I was writing at that
Hmm.
moment, but I hadn't. Um, so as I said, at a certain moment, it's not uh, critical, but I spent my childhood and even my teenage time wondering what I want to do because so many things interest me. And I love
Hmm.
to, yeah,
And I think this brings it back to what you said earlier on. You were just a good student, that everything was option,
yeah,
everything was possible. And I can imagine that at the same time, that puts a lot of pressure on you because everything is possible. And then you should dream big and you should do something important with
exactly,
your life. And reading
exactly,
these kind of romantic books, in my mind, is also about, okay, you have the world and yeah, that's a little bit that romantic feeling. You
yeah,
the world is at your feet. Is that
yeah,
what was
yeah,
happening in that age?
exactly, exactly. There was a pressure about how will I leave a stance in this world, which is a very maybe I don't know. It's a thought that might young people might not have, but I had that pressure.
Mm.
I have the privilege to have the world at my feet in a way because I had a happy childhood and all this good
But at
grades
the
and
same time,
everything.
also here, it's put some kind of pressure on you in a
Exactly,
way
but
that.
it put some pressure on you. How? am I deserving it? How will I prove that I deserve all this privileges I
So
have?
at
Yeah,
that kind of level, line of
yeah,
pressure. Thanks for
yeah.
sharing that. So that's yeah, so that is very nice stories that we moved already in multiple ways and combining the two questions together. So I like it already. I'm really enjoying the conversation. Um, let's move to that third one. What do you consider at this moment your biggest challenge, and why is it a good thing for you? And of course, the biggest challenge that you want to have open on the internet, because sometimes people have challenges that they're not ready to spread out.
Mm, mm. My I think my biggest challenge is to embrace what is.
Mm, wow, that's very
I'm
deep.
Yeah, I'm working on that so hard, but sometimes it's so hard to really be in that moment, um, and say this is, you know, life is not good, not bad, it just is. Even if it can feel hurtful. So I think this is my, yeah, this is my biggest challenge. So I don't know if you want examples, but because it could be from very little things to, as you said, deep and very important things. But
Mm,
I can even say, as an agile practitioner, or as a parent, maybe we want some good things for other people. We wish them good. But in the moment, and we say that, we can't push our good on people.
that is indeed the challenge, that sometimes we see something, especially you mentioned parenthood, but I also think the same thing as a coach. Or I'm coaching someone and I see something, and there's always a moment that as a coach you sometimes see something but the other person doesn't see it.
Mm,
And I know that pushing it to that person will actually make him or her reject it, or them reject it, so
exactly.
it won't help. So I need to hold back a little bit and hope that that other person discovers it. And sometimes it does and it's good. Sometimes it does and he or she says, no, that's not good. And sometimes they discover something completely different. And that's also fine. But as a coach or as a parent, it's sometimes like, yeah. Is
Exactly.
that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. I
exactly,
recognize.
exactly, exactly, exactly. So, even when you arrive as an agile practitioner, and you have this, I was talking about privilege, by the way, is one of the topic that I interests me a lot in
Mhm.
nowadays. um, you have an implicit higher rank, the one of the expert.
Mhm.
So people hire you to be an expert, so you kind of have implicitly this higher rank.
If you want it or not.
If you want it or not, yes, of course you don't want it, but so this is, I don't know, if it's a challenge, but anyway, I'm trying to work with how you work with that rank in a positive way, to be at the service of the people, instead of using it to uh, i- push or impose things over people. Say, you need to
Mm.
organize yourself like that and like that, and this will be good for you. You see that later. Take the medicine.
Oh yeah, take the medicine. And if
Take
you
the
just know
medicine.
And if we
Exactly. It's
know
good.
how many people are already looking for Dr. Google and not listening to the doctors,
Yeah.
that's actually uh, the opposite is also true. Doctors are not always listening to their patients. I have had a
Exactly.
few examples the last weeks, but I think that's a very nice. How would I say it? A very nice challenge as an example. Now, I want to move a little bit to that second part of that question. Why is that a good thing for you? What part of it is there anything about that challenge that you see that okay, that actually is sometimes also good for me. Is there something like that?
Absolutely, no. From as a coach, this is a great growth opportunity for me. Is to stop, have the awareness and work on that. This if I if this weren't a challenge, I wouldn't have this work done his work on privilege and ranks and group dynamics,
Mm.
for example. And what is my role in a group?
That is a tough question, I think, for many of us,
Yeah,
both as a coach or as a leader, and as a parent in a way that little
exactly.
dynamic of a family is maybe not a team, but at the same time there is a little bit like how do we work in such a group that's
Yeah,
team
exactly,
dynamic.
exactly. What is my role? What is the role I want to have? What is the role that people perceive? What is implicit? What is explicit? What is implicit? So I'm fascinated, and this was the huge opportunity for me to work with the implicit, because
Mm.
there is so much data in the implicit.
I really like that statement. There is so much data in the implicit.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
and how do you discover that data in the implicit? Do you have any tricks for that, or how does that work for you?
um well, first of all, the easy one: observe and ask question from a curious, open heart point of view. I think that's very important. uh, so
Mhm.
that asking questions is powerful. Also asking questions from this not non-judgmental, open heart point of view. This is uh, this is maybe the key. And then um, challenge a little bit habits, and say, have this group awareness. It's saying, what do we observe here? What is happening? Mhm.
Mm.
Being
That's
always, yeah, and being always intentional. Saying whatever I say, I try to say what's the intention. I don't know exactly if the what I'm doing is good. I don't know if the what is appropriate, but at least the why is clear. That might save the what or improve it. Yeah, on the go.
thanks for bringing that up. And indeed, you already mentioned a few times statements that are either very completely coming from clean language and from a lot of these things, and I know that you're very passionate about that, and I'm using that a little bit as a link to that next question, because when we work together, I know you're a very passionate person. Do you know where that passion is coming from with you?
I think that is coming from curiosity, enthusiasm. I want to learn things. I want to understand why. And I what really drives me is wonder. What I can share, and someone mirrored me that, is that I can uh, invite successfully people to wonder.
Mm. That is a very nice statement indeed, to coming from that state and trying to indeed wonder about the world. And I think I've recognized it in many different ways, how we've been interacting, both in workshops or in when we prepare a presentation. It's been a long time ago that we done one, but when we prepared it, I also saw that wonder and about asking these questions, and yeah, a lot of that passion. Um, and I want to go a little bit deeper. If you look at that questioning and that wonderful about the world, when you look at these things, do you know what triggered to learn that? Is there something that, because not many people have that same way of looking at the world as you have, is there something that triggered that you know where that's coming from? It could be not, but maybe you know.
Yeah, I really don't know, but it's this. You know what? Your question was what drives me. That I really feel it. You know those things that say the thing that you know. It's not that you understand, but you know, like you know, with your body and your heart also. Uh, and it's this curiosity. There is this some. I feel there's a potential there. There's something to be explored. Let's explore, let's unveil, let's see what are the opportunities.
And did you
Yeah,
always had that kind of openness for exploring the things, or
i
not?
I think I had, even if I'm not a very adventurous person. So you know, I was not someone that goes uh, jumping. I loved climbing, but I was, you know, I was kind of afraid as a little girl. So
Mm.
I'm not an adventurous person, but I love to travel, to discover, to um when I was a little girl, I traveled on two maps. I had two maps in my room. The one was the map of Romania, the other one was the map of the world. And when I was a little girl in Romania, you were not allowed to get out of the country. So I
Mm.
grew up with the idea that I will never see any other piece of the earth except Romania, which is a very beautiful country, by the way. But that map um, allowed me to escape and to travel everywhere. I was reading Jules Verne's novels as a kid, and then you know, I don't know if you know Captain at 14 or something like that. It's
Mm.
that's not very known. Uh, and things are happening in South America, and I was following where he was in Amazonian forests. He was mentioning names with Dr. Livingstone and all the things. So
So because you were not allowed to travel, you traveled in your head. That's a little bit what
exactly,
I heard.
yeah, yeah.
Reading that we talked
Mhm.
about before about romantic thing, but I also hear that because of that, you kind of looked at the world in a different view, not just at the world around you, but also at what are the opportunities.
Mhm.
Okay, because it's I can see how people can be really depressed and saying, "Oh, I'm sad about I'm not able to leave my country." But you looked for a way to how you could travel, even not physically, but in your mind, and you learn to have that and probably discover your curiosity already at that young age, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. There's something about curiosity, yeah, that was really driving me. Yeah.
That's a very nice story. That's that. Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing that. And I want to go to that next question. And I want to, before we go, even go to the question below, because what is your biggest achievement is your moment to become proud. And I want to know and to brag really about what you achieved. And I want to check with you, is it easy for Oana to be proud? Is that something that is easy for you to do? To be bragging about what you achieved so far?
I think it's easy. Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think it's easy.
That's nice because not everybody has it. It's many people that say I'm really proud of that, but I'm kind of hard to tell people about it, and it's kind of so for you it's easy. So
I
what do
think
you
it's easy. It's a
consider
very,
your
yeah, it's a very interesting question because I do acknowledge that that might be difficult for people to say I'm proud of this, but I don't have that,
no?
which
But
is
that's
interesting.
that's perfectly fine. Huh? So
Yeah,
let's explore also what do you consider your biggest achievement? Where are you really proud of?
well, you know
Or
what?
and you probably
It's
have
yeah.
multiple, but what's the one that you want to talk about today?
It's true that what puts a little bit of pressure in your question is the biggest because it's, oh my
Hmm.
God, I need to choose one. Oh my, oh, how can I, what can I say? Of course, I love
Mm.
my children, uh, but
Yeah,
I have other
many
achievements.
people have
So,
but
yeah,
many people have talked to me about it, and I've been wondering, should I exclude the children? Because every parent wants to do that, and sometimes it is, sometimes there is interesting stories about it, but yeah, sometimes we also want to talk about the other
wh-
stuff. So
wh-
what did you
ex-
select in the end?
exactly. It's like if I don't select my children, it's like I'm not a good parent. This is how it comes to me right now with your question.
Hmm.
So, oh, but let's
But then you
um
also have to choose between your children, so we don't want to do that.
exactly. So I won't. I think just to address a little bit of the topic, I think children are the most beautiful adventure, whatever
Mm.
is and whatever challenges it brings, and definitely they bring the biggest challenge just to us. And for me, it's I don't know if it's an achievement, but I am grateful to my children because they were the ones that how I can say, um I don't think it's forced, but I don't find another good word to connect to myself, to my true self.
Mm.
I always say
Wow.
my kids are my best coaches, not because they are coaches, but because as I love them, in moments of crisis, I said, I need to do something about this, and I'm the adult.
So they show you a mirror, and sometimes conversations are going bad, and like, okay, I don't want to tell them that they need to fix them. Let's look at myself and let's
Exactly. Let's fix
myself
myself.
produce. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
The only one that I can fix is myself. And even
that's
more,
already hard.
yeah, I know, but it's the only chance I have is to fix myself, not fix the world. And that's a very good
Mm.
driver to try to fix yourself out of love with them.
Uh, yeah, thank you for adding that out of love because you do it like you said earlier on. You do it out of love for your child. You see a child and struggling
Mm,
with something, or in the relationship there's something struggling, and yeah, we basically want to tell our child it's going to be okay. But at the same time, we know that if it's in the
mm.
relationship with ourselves, we need to find a way. Like, okay, that feedback somehow, the communication is not. Let's look at
Yeah,
myself. And this is
absolutely.
also, I think, a very strong message to your children.
Mm,
Like, okay, I hear things are whatever is happening. What can I do on this part? So that is a very nice thing. And because this question is about the biggest achievement, where are you on that path? Because it's probably not something that you've achieved in the sense that this
mm,
is something that
mm.
people work on the rest of their life. Where are you on there?
I don't know. I'm on I'm on the journey. But it's this journey where you know that you might never arrive, but it's, you feel that you've made a step further, and it's this beautiful thing. Is like, I love that metaphor. I don't know exactly where did it come from, but when you when you think that there's a wall, and then you see that actually there's a window or a door in that wall. And I can connect that to other big achievements, which I think one of my biggest achievements was to support people to see doors when they saw first only walls.
That is indeed, yeah. It's a nice statement, and indeed that it's, sometimes there is a wall, and then it's yeah, you need to look closer, or you need to take more distance to actually see that, hey, this is not just a wall. There is actually a little
Yeah,
place. There is a
yeah.
window. There is a place where we can enter or we can leave, and stuff like that. That is
And yeah, and if you and actually from this is the way that I present myself, is that I really um felt that this is my mission, is to support people with different things, practices, coaching, so they can be proud of their outcomes. Because I think this is when really felt in the flow, when some people just rised, were
yeah,
rising,
rising.
rising. um yeah, there's, and I can give some examples if you want, or some concrete examples,
Yeah,
because stories
maybe
are
add
always nice.
something.
Yeah,
Exactly.
stories are always nice. So one of the examples is a professional example. I was long ago, I was invited to coach a team. Actually, it was two teams in South Korea.
Wow.
The two product teams, and I was thinking. I was even talking to a South Korean person to see what's the South Korean culture, because I was so intimidated. I was saying I'm going there to deploy an approach, and with a very, I don't know, extrovert Western type of values and culture. And I don't know what that get how does that land in South Korean culture. I don't know anything about South Korean culture. I'm very enthusiastic about agile, but I don't know anything. So
Mm.
I really was stressed about that, you know and I was there with them, and we've done the training. That's okay. And then we set up the teams, the agile teams. And there was something about the dynamic I put in place, that everyone could speak, even if it's very hierarchical, but
Mm.
everyone could speak, and the work of everyone was visible. I really helped that it was visible. um we've done the one thing that's I'm very keen on in agile, is doing demos, because it gives visibility and it creates trust. So we're doing demos, and then it was a kind of strategic project. And some VPs were invited but couldn't come. So then they've done some, they were recorded, these demos. Um, and from the recording, it became kind of a tutorial, these opportunities, and there was really a very good, um, a very positive dynamics, but the uh, really the most intense moment was when I was with a product owner working in a room, in a meeting room,
Mhm.
and I was doing some stuff and he was doing some stuff, and suddenly he says, "Oh, I've got an email from the CEO."
Wow.
And he says, "Hmm, I never got an email from the CEO."
Oops, should I worry?
Oops, exactly. I mean, I'm not sure that I even think that probably the communication was not really through the CEO, but through some VP of communication. I don't know. Uh, and exactly, should I worry? And I said, well, what does this email say? And I was so touched to watch him, how his expression was transformed while reading this that email live in front of me. So it was something like it was addressed to all the team, you know, all, really all the developers, all the team, and it was saying, "Dear, I'd like to congratulate you for your outstanding performance. I have never seen a product being advanced so quickly with such good results in such
Um,
short time." And more he was reading, less he was believing in it. Is And at the end, his this is the first email I've ever had from my CEO. So
mm,
this that created such an energy in the team, and this that was one of the moments I said, yes, this is what I want to do in the world. Bring something that makes people proud and visible. Yeah, be proud of their outcome. Um,
and it's interesting because you say, okay, typically the first time people get an email from their CEO is usually more in the negative way because then it usually means something else. So it's a
yeah,
very nice story, and at the same time, it's also a little bit sad that the more you read it, the more positive it is.
yeah,
It sounds like this can be true. What's
yeah.
happening to me? Like people have a hard time believing that things are yeah, having a nice
Exactly. Yeah,
thing.
you're right.
And so
It
that's
has his sad side, but yeah, that was so. Uh, this is so. Why was so deep in me is that I said culturally we're very different, but if you go in a culture with humility, you're curious about the people. I always was checking, is that okay for you if I'm doing this, if I'm we are doing this, or um and for me this was the lesson that is really cross cultural. People need to have the recognition or be proud of what they're doing, no matter
yeah,
what culture. Yeah.
exactly. It's always that kind of thing, and
Mm.
that and it shows that even in a culture that might not be used to do that, at least the CEO was so happy that he did it, maybe even
Yeah.
if it was less cultural
Yeah.
accepted
Yeah.
and things like that. So thanks for sharing and making it a very, very concrete example. Also linking back to what you said in the beginning about making people's life better and things like that. Let's move to that next question about personal agility tip. What is there? Do you have a tip that you want to share with the world?
Mm. Well, except the fact that it doesn't, I don't do that anymore. But I was conducting as a personal agility retrospectives
Mm,
with my children every Sunday, saying how
wow.
was the week. What do we want to
And why?
improve?
What made you? Well, let's first. What brought the value? What was in there that? How was the reaction, or maybe even more? How was the reaction of your children to use a tool from work in personal life?
Well,
did that work out?
well, they were amused at
Mhm,
that age when they were children, and early teenage. They were also proud to know what mom does at work and be involved. Um, by the way, Eve, that I brought them to AIL, Agile in Europe
mhm,
conference. um, and it was a fun game because I was asking them what is okay, what is not okay.
mhm.
So that was also, reshuffling the privileges as a
Ah,
parent. Yeah,
because they were allowed to tell about what things are not going and actually
exactly.
propose things to
Yeah,
make things better in your life.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
actually that is reversing the roles indeed.
yeah,
And we sometimes see that I at least see that sometimes with teams when you do that in the first time, it's like, am I allowed to say what to change? And usually they
yeah,
stay very small, and it's better to start with
yeah,
that because you have fully control. But the more you
yeah,
do it, the more daring you go further.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I want to zoom in a little bit on the ALE because some people might not know. ALE is the
Yeah,
Agile and Lean Europe conference. So we're a lot of agilists, and both of us, we were, I wouldn't say founders, but we're there from the very first start, and we helped and have crazy ideas.
mhm,
And so one of the things that might be interesting for people to know is that they have a full kids program, which Oana was a little bit linking to that. Okay, we bring our children, both of our children been there, and they were working a full week together, sometimes parents, sometimes other people jumping in. uh, but they also do, for me, one of the nicest parts of the conference is the closing keynote that is typically, or the years that I've been, always done by the children, where they talk as a kind of demo. This is what we do, and they typically make it into a little play. Remember, this is people from all around Europe, sometimes bigger, that most of them don't speak English. They try ways with a little bit of YouTube English and a few other stuff and sign languages to understand each other.
yeah,
But it's always working very nice to see how young children at that age brings so much value. This is for me still always the best part of that conference. We
absolutely.
think young children cannot do this, and it's very very amazing. And yeah, I know that our children connected multiple times there. It's an amazing thing to do, and then nice to see that you bring some of these techniques to them. You talked already a little bit about the age, but could you be more specific? Do you remember when you started doing that? You said young
Oh,
teenagers. What?
yeah, yeah, yes. By the way, I do consider myself somehow a founder of Ale, along with
Mhm.
Olaf and Jurgen and Frank was here for the first edition, uh,
I think we
2011.
had a meeting where we came up with the name of Ale,
Yeah,
Agile Lean Europe.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
I was less
yeah.
involved in the rest of the
Yeah,
conference.
yeah,
Yes, thank you for reminding me.
I was really very involved from in the first 4 years, and but then of course, anyways, it's a very nice community event, and I'm taking the opportunity next year. It's in Budapest, always late
Mm.
August, so children might not be in on holidays anymore, but still school is not didn't start. So going back to the age, your question.
Mhm.
um, so we've done that for a number of years, so I think they were from where it was 7ish, 6, 7. I have 3 children, so they have different ages, but So
Yes.
I make the mean, out of it.
Yeah, you don't
So,
have triplets.
yeah, yeah, and until they were like 14, I think that after 14 it became more difficult.
Right. I understand.
But
And so,
I've done that
yeah,
with
go ahead.
my daughter. Sorry, with my oldest daughter, who is a young adult now. A couple of years ago, when we went to a road trip in Romania, and we were doing evening retrospectives.
Wow.
uh, it
So
was
you
with
went on a trip, and every evening you kind of talked about
exactly
how was the day.
what did we appreciate, what do we need to improve to be better tomorrow, because they're always, I want to do that, you want to, they're always little things. So she was with her boyfriend, and we had a
And he joined in that retros as
yeah,
well? Because I can
absolutely.
imagine doing it with your child is one thing, but doing it as a kind of parent-in-law to that boy, yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
might
yeah,
be.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, he found it that very funny. Yeah,
Okay, that's really nice to see how that actually grows also into that.
yeah,
We're not
yeah.
yet at that stage, so I have no experience there. I have to say that I do recently, since well, I'm not since Corona. I think a couple of months ago, I started with my wife also at the end of the day to look a little bit about, okay, how was the day? What are we kind of as a planning meeting? It's not a retro, but it's more
Mhm,
a planning meeting. What do we need to do for tomorrow? Where do we need to align? It's
mhm,
been amazing to do that, because indeed sometimes yeah, the next day I got sometimes, yeah, well, angry is the wrong word, but annoyed by some of the things
mhm,
happening.
mhm.
And just
Absolutely,
by having
exactly.
that conversation the day before removed so much of
Mhm.
the stress around us. So
Exactly. Well, I think that what I've discovered, that it works with everyone because you offer a space for people to speak. And if you really, as I said, open-hearted is important to create that
mm,
open space, hold with open heart. Uh, People love it, even if it's different. It's if don't know about it. It's always it's funny. It's one of the things. I'm jumping to another thing. I'm also facilitating teams, product teams with innovation and creative processes like design thinking. And in design thinking and uh, UX, design user research, you're doing um, interview users. And
mhm,
uh, what I'm saying in that moment when they create the questions, creating powerful questions, is that people come surprised from those interviews saying that they went very well and people were very um, collaborative. And what I'm saying is, well, usually there's not an open space where you bring your curiosity and you listen to people. People are not used to be listened to.
mm. I really like that, and I see that as well. It's like making the time. Just, well, for me, this is these interviews that I'm doing is also making space. And um, I'm not. This is uploaded on YouTube, and typically the best format on YouTube is like 10 to 25 minutes, and that's the maximum that people have attention. And I actually noticed that many people love these interviews, although they're long. And it's the longest interview, more than 3 hours. It's not the least watched. It's pretty high numbers. So people actually say, I really like a conversation. And if you disagree when you listen to this, just put it into the comments. Okay, we're already recording about an hour, so maybe you stop listening if you don't like long interviews. So there might be a bias there, but still, I do think that many people love the conversation and listen in a little bit about. Okay, we take the time. I really want to take the time to have a conversation and to take the time to listen to you, to listen to your stories. And you talked before about being in the moment. For me, there is not more. You have to be in this moment together with you and in these stories and listen
Yeah,
and yeah,
yeah,
take that time. I
yeah.
think this is so important there. Um, yeah, what you want to add something to that?
I was also about being in the moment. There's something so important that we forget. I also forget. uh, but I'm usually say nothing exists except the present,
Mm,
which is the and it is the eternity.
it is,
Because
it is, and we can worry about the past, we can worry about the future, but the past is already gone, and then the
yeah.
future. Yeah, it's and I've been that mistake. I think all of us we
Oh,
think too much about the past and worry
exactly,
too much about the future,
exactly.
but but
And
maybe that's not enjoying the now. That's like, here, take the moment.
absolutely, I love that also. That I'm sorry, I don't know if I quote someone from some book, or I don't know. I'm sorry, but it was so powerfully said. Is we we project on the future the fears of our past experiences. We project
Wow.
on an um on uncertain future the fears of our past experiences. So for me, it's a way to say we just worry for nothing.
But it's a nicer way to say it.
It's a nicer way to say it. It's a very elegant way to say it.
But it
Unconfirmed. Yeah. We worry about the unconfirmed problems of the future based on the, it goes more like that, based on the past experience, backpacks. So,
Yeah, I recognize that so much, and we talked a little bit before about parenting, and there's so many options our children can go, and they will go in so much different directions than when we think, and still we do worry, and and there is a big danger in that we put our worry onto the children, and that they think that we worried because they're doing something bad, where it's actually we worrying
mhm,
about all the options and the bad world and whatever. And no, it doesn't help us. Of course, as a parent, it's kind of hard. Well, first of all, to not worry, and if we worrying, to not radiate that, because children are
exactly,
really good
exactly.
at
Yeah.
reading that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
that is an important part. Let's move to that next question, because I feel this is a question, and I know this is a question we could talk for hours and days about, the personal agility and everything that goes around it. Let's go to that
Yeah.
remote working. Have you experienced
Mm,
remote working before COVID? I think we prepared a presentation remotely
yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
But did
Yeah.
you actually do
Yeah.
remote work, like workshops, presentations remote before COVID? How was that? How for you?
I actually, I don't think I've definitely I didn't work remotely. No,
Mm.
I didn't really work remotely before COVID. I don't remember any
And were
remarkable
you
work.
against remote work, or was that just no opportunities? Was that just not a thought? What was that?
There was no real opportunity. I don't think I was very interested, and actually, the world was not very remote like working, mainly for um, jobs like coaching groups, um, facilitating groups, that was in presence.
Hmm.
The only thing was coaching by phone, I remember, and I was not a
Hmm.
fan. I have a friend, a coach friend, that she likes a lot coaching, liked before the COVID, liked coaching by phone because not
She
seeing but
coached you, or
hearing.
you coaching her, or how is that
No, no,
working? Or
not
she
none of
told you that
those.
she does that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And so COVID hits, and all of a sudden the world closes down, and you're kind of forced to go remote. What happened to Oana? Did you panic? Did you just swapped without a problem? How did it work for you?
I felt lost.
Hmm.
I felt lost. I was of those people, I didn't know what to do. I felt a lot of people around. There was a lot of generosity at the beginning, a lot of um, topics, workshops that were online free, from meditations to agility and whatever. A lot of generosity. I myself, I put offered some workshop about one of the topics I love to work on with groups, which is fear and collective fears. um, so yes, I learned a lot about facilitating online groups, um, that was exciting. But in the same time, I felt lost, and I felt um, like how can I put it in the most proper way? There was an excitement, attraction to do all things online. Like,
Mhm.
let's do trainings online. Everyone was building trainings online. The new golden, I felt it like the new gold mine or silver bullet was, let's do trainings and workshops online. uh, let's coach people how they can work online together. And I felt that that was not, I don't know, I didn't feel aligned with that, so I felt lost. To be
And
honest.
so, how did you got back and not being lost? And did that feeling ever got over before Corona was finished, or did you stay lost in the whole period?
I
I still
kind of,
think it's not over Corona, just for the record,
yeah, yeah,
because I
yeah,
just had
yeah,
a colleague of my wife being positive just this
yeah,
week, but just most of it is over, or we are
yeah.
less impacted with a lot of that. So, how did it move for you?
Well, definitely the world has changed. I always, something I'd love to say, is we've passed through chaos, and all systems, when they pass from through a chaos state, they either die or evolve. They can't come back. This is from the theory of system. It's not one us theory. It's the theory of system, systems theory. Um,
But
so
wait,
I,
wait. I want to, because you remind me about something that you keep telling, and you didn't bring it up yet. But Oana is someone who's once, I think, um, you had something about being a DJ with technologies and with IDs, and not, so you're saying it's not my ID, but you actually have a very large toolbox and you pick out what is
yeah,
needed for the team
yeah.
and for you. So it is not your theory, it might be somewhere else. I don't think you want to invent so much theories, but it's more like, I learn from all these theories and I mix it up like a good DJ, and I bring the music that
Mhm.
will make you dance. Is that a little bit how I
Yeah,
should see
exactly.
that?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I
Exactly.
interrupted. Go back
No,
to
no,
your
no, no,
previous
no, no
story.
worries. No worries. So for me, the world is completely changed. So the 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 way we interact. is changed and there's opportunities. So after, um, I felt less lost,
Mm.
but I still, there is something in me that said I'm kind of a guardian of quality interactions, because
With you or with the people around you, or how do you
with people
what do you
around,
guard?
yeah, with people around me and people with people. i
Mm.
I think that the remote work, virtual work, uh, has depleted the quality of interactions. And it started, I have a very plain example. It was a very good intention, was let's have dinner or let's have beer together
Mhm.
virtually. I don't know how it worked for you. I felt so annoyed. I felt
Yeah,
so
I heard
annoyed.
many
And
people.
it was
Well,
a very good intention, you know. During-
but for most people, it didn't work. I would say that. But the interesting thing is,
I
I've
was bored
um,
also. It didn't work for me neither. Why doesn't work? Because we don't, for me, we don't have the same quality of conversation. And I just want to push it a little bit further, and that was, give you the space. Um, Today, that everything is virtual, so we are so much, I see, uh, used to talk to each other without camera, um, which can be okay for privacy or for the planet, because it takes a lot of
mhm,
a lot of data throughput, um, but in the same time you don't connect. Really,
mm,
you don't really connect. I was saying, I was helping with a retrospective with a team, and everyone had the camera off, and I was, um, giving some instruction how to come, and there was no reaction, no. And I was saying, guys, I feel that I'm like surrounded by a number of ghosts. No one
mm.
had camera on, and no one had a picture. So when you have that default shadow.
Egg or shadow or
Yeah,
whatever that.
exactly. And I said, I feel like talking to ghosts, guys.
It's interesting. For me, it depends a little bit. If, for example, of course, this conversation, if you
Mhm,
would be off camera, then it wouldn't work. I had a few recordings where my camera went off at a strange
mhm,
moment, and then it took a while before I got back. So I found it very annoying, and you could feel it in most of these conversations. Um, if I see a presentation, for example, and there's like 20 people or 100 people in it, and there's one person presenting, don't put on your camera. I don't care. Nobody sees it, and
yeah,
that's not it. If you
yeah,
want an interactive conversation, that's a different style.
yeah. You're right. For me, it's really that now it's the standard. Let's
Mhm.
meet virtually. And for conversation, for workshops, for whatever. So it should be interactive, but I feel the quality of interaction is not the same as in presence,
Yeah, I
with with or without the camera on. I mean, now what
mhm.
you're talking, it's not the same. For me, it's really not the same. um it's maybe
I
it's about
I
the body language. I don't know, and you're right. I mean, it's a different vibes. When we were talking about childhood. When I was a child, uh, I was talking endlessly to my friends on phone.
mm,
It was phones, so we didn't see each other. We enjoyed to. So there's a quality of interaction, but then we saw each other at school or on the playground. Also, the podcasts are very interesting format. You don't, there's no camera, but it's not, it's a very specific type of interaction.
Mhm.
What I think it's a problem, it's that we normalize that when you gather a bunch of people virtually, this is a new standard, and I don't think it does us well. Good. Does, yeah.
I'm always going a little back and forth, and I don't want to
Mhm.
to go too much into that discussion because I think it might depend for different kind of people.
Mhm.
But what I definitely recognize, and we talked a little bit before about it, it's about how much time do we invest? Like this thing, this is for me. I've met, we know each other, so I think that's already easier to reconnect. But a lot of the 90 people that I've interviewed I've never seen before, some I've never met before. It's really
Mhm.
like a few mails to connect. And I still feel very much connected because we take the time to have a chat and to have a real
Mhm.
conversation. In the work life, what I see is that we put so many meetings one after the other, and there is no time. There's just for the record, for the people who are here, we took like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes before we started the recording to talk a little bit about ourselves, about our children. How are you? How is life? What's happening before we actually started the recording? In many ways, in the way we interact, it's like boom, in the meeting topic, how are you, how are the numbers, what's going on, blah blah blah, we see you, bye, hope, bye, and go to the next meeting. That's exhausting. That doesn't bring,
It
no,
is
I
exhausting. It is
we I
exhausting.
want to have, I want to have a little more that conversation, and indeed be feeling. I'm working today with people who are in Ukraine, so in Lviv. So I know they're under stress. They're really like, okay, we're talking about creating a product with people and trying to create safety with people who are not physically safe.
Yeah.
So it is important to stay connected and to say and to feel like, how are you? Oh, it's actually a lot of snow today. That's in
Mhm.
Belgium. It's raining. It's not snowing. There might be. So that's just knowing a little bit about that makes that conversation much easier for the hard conversation, because we sometimes still have to have hard conversations about solving problems and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But yeah, it's so much easier if we
Mhm.
physically see each other. Now, I want to go back a little bit to the topic. Um,
Mhm.
what have you learned about it? Do you have any trick to help out with that kind of remote working? What are you doing to help that create that connection?
What I try to do, it doesn't always work, to be
Mm.
honest. I see that people are very much used now, because I said it's the new norm, is to be in a meeting without the camera, and probably doing two things in the same time.
Ah,
And
yeah, because the camera is off and we can do many different kind of things.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
at least this is what we believe. Um, I try to surprise, to invite to something different. Um, and so, once again, ask a question or invite them to do something a little bit different. As you say, let's have a check-in moment. Um,
Could you
Also,
give an example of a check-in? What's the kind of check-in that you would use to create connection? Let's be very specific here. Could you give
yeah,
an example?
simple things, really simple things. What's what's what is your inner weather today? Uh,
Mm.
how the street lights, green, red.
So really make it concrete also there. How do you
Yeah,
feel? What is
exactly, exactly.
yeah.
Share something.
And how easy it is that, because you're working with developers in many cases, how easy is it? Because sometimes we talk about developers, they're introverts and they don't like sharing it. Have you any experience with that? Do you feel that it's harder for these people or totally not hard? How is your experience there?
I'm I wouldn't say it's about developers.
Mm.
Some of them are shyer. It's more how they used to interact. Um, and how much interest they have in that virtual meeting.
Mm,
uh, because sometimes what I like to I'd like to create, I'm not always succeeding, is to connect to the why. Why do we ever are here in the same team? When you have normally teams that are not exclusively developers but from with different skills, and this is one of the challenges, can be, well, he's expert in this, I'm developer, and the other one is expert in that, so I don't understand a thing what he's doing, so while she's speaking, I'm doing something else, and if I need to speak, I will speak about my stuff. you know so this is, for me, one of the another thing is, let's sit a little bit to say, why are we together? Why do we form a
mm.
team?
But it's again, you bring the person back, you bring
Yeah,
the attention back to
always.
the personal
Yeah,
thing, and
always.
that's yeah. I was about to say I always see you doing that in many different ways, and this is what I like about your answer because you show that hey, it's not because we're remote that we can be personal. We do make attention to
Exactly.
that, and we do
Exactly.
that.
But yeah,
Oh,
that's because we are remote, we are still persons. uh,
oh yes, we're still humans, we're still
we're
persons,
still
even if
humans.
we work in.
Yeah,
Thank you
exactly.
for adding that. That is that's such a nice closing of that topic because it's yeah, remote, we're still humans. Well, at
Mhm.
least we hope that if they're not putting on their camera, there might be robots. We don't know, but
Yeah,
let's
yeah, we
assume
don't know, but
people
yeah, yeah,
are
yeah. But you're right. We tend to forget that we're still
mm,
humans.
that we
Yeah, in front of our
and again
cameras. Yeah.
and not having the camera on makes it even harder. I did. I remember at some point that I asked very specific. Let's at least add a picture. Don't add a drawing or a meme. And memes are very nice. It
Mm,
creates something about what I like about me or whatever. But taking it the real picture makes it so much more personal. I actually had a
absolutely.
time in Skype where I tried to swap pictures. If I was not in a good mood, it would be more a picture that
Mm,
was kind of, "Ugh," and if I was happy, it was be more, yeah, a happier picture, things like that, just to show people like, okay, this is the kind of thing
mhm.
that I'm in there. Okay, I want to move to that next question about a book. What's a book that you have read? And I think, if I remember correctly, that you prepared a few books there. There's a few things that you wanted to talk about. Did I remember correctly?
Yes, I think so. I think that the book I've mentioned you before, and
Hmm.
it's a book that I reread now, and it's for me so powerful. It's called "Sitting in the Fire," Arnold Mindell.
Hmm.
So it's about group dynamics again, and Arnold Mindell created
I
an approach.
It took
Arnold
me a while,
Mindell,
but I think this
exactly.
is the book, right?
Yeah, this is the book. Yeah,
Sitting in the
yeah,
Fire.
yeah,
Oops, it
yeah,
didn't go off.
yeah.
So,
Thank
talking
you.
about groups dynamics. So, tell me more. Why should I read that book?
Because is what is powerful. It's one of the books. So it describes the approach Arnold Mindell had. He defined something that is called deep democracy,
Mm.
and the vision is uh, that our consensual group dynamics is that we are deciding in a democratic way what to do. But the problem with democracy is that it's it's the mainstream thinking. So the majority, mainstream majority thinking. So the minorities don't have a voice anymore, and the
Mm.
minorities that don't have a voice radicalize them over time because they are not heard, and this is a problem.
I really like that you stress that, because it's um, in the Western world, we've been looking for a while, as many people think democracy is the best thing, and I don't think it. I see a better way at this moment, because I'm not really fond of yeah, the one leader deciding all the other things. But at the same time, I've seen it, and I think, well, I don't know if that's what you want to talk more about. What I've seen in groups is, indeed, for example, we do a retrospective with lots of developers. There's one tester, and then the testing subject is never picked up, because developers care about other stuff, and so that minority is actually going away until we find ways to help it. As a scrum master, we can say, okay, today let's forget about everything else. Let's focus on the retrospective for the testing. And so we bring that minority topic a little bit to more attention, and hope that developers can think about it. And so find ways to bring minorities back. And what is in the book? How does he deal with that? Are there any solutions in different kind of
Well,
ways?
there are different ways of he's really working with dynamics and with kind of a dialogue. What it's called, one of the things is working with conflicts,
Hmm.
because majority minority is always a conflict, and the conflict can become bigger because the minority is ignored. That's why uh, yeah, that why is a problem. And it's important to see the conflict as early as possible. What he's called the double signal. It's I'm
Okay,
saying
say more.
something. Yeah, I'm saying something, but my experience, either as a minority that is less privileged, or either as a representative of a majority that has a privilege, I'm sending a signal that is might be very politically correct or correct, but my double signal is, for example, if I'm part of the majority, is I know it all because I'm more privileged than you.
As in, sometimes, well, we see that a lot with leaders. We see that with
Mhm.
managers, or high up in the
Yeah.
hierarchy, thinking it. And actually, I've coached a few C-level people that were actually complaining about the opposite. They were saying, like, because I'm so high up in my ivory tower, I try to talk with more to people, but especially if you're in large organizations, there's no way that a CEO of a 5,000 company can talk to everybody at the bottom. That's just technically not possible in the time. So they have a hard time connecting and understanding the problem. And so I see there's disconnect from both sides. So it's like, yes, at the same time, I sometimes have a vision, but I get so little feedback on it, or I have a hard time understanding the feedback, because that's a little bit what I
Mm.
hear you say. I'm in my privilege, and I don't realize that my view is a limited view. So, and then I interrupted there. Is there, what are solutions, or what are ways in the book that help us to
So
that, or can help us?
I think the it's it's premature to go to solution before we see a little bit what the problem is,
Mm.
because it's more subtle. It's quite subtle. What I was saying, you were giving the example of the CEO, but it's not quite that. It's the privilege of the majority.
So, yeah, I
So
was giving the
by
most extreme
default,
example, but you're saying,
yeah, yeah,
go
by
ahead.
default, a majority has the double signal to oppress the minority because we impose our decision.
Right. Yeah, because we are the majority.
We are the majority, we are doing things like that here and whatever, and you kind of say that this is the way that things work.
Yeah, and
And that
as a
creates that
minority is changed.
yeah, exactly. And this oppression, this is the double signal, is I'm patronizing you as a member of the minority, and you receive that, but
As a
it's
majority, you're patronizing the minority. That's what I'm hearing you
exactly,
saying.
yeah, for example, because I tell you how to behave
Mm.
in a way or another, uh, so he gives this example. I will give this example in his book because he was working on conflicts in very hot areas like Northern Ireland in the 90s, in United States in very poor black areas, and he was giving this example in a circle of talking about I think it was in US, and there was a white man that came, and this is from the book. We came in with this Bible and say he's not a racist, and he doesn't see where the problem is. And a black person felt so much anger and answered him, and the white man is saying, I won't talk to you in when you hold so much anger. Talking needs to be polite. This is the form of oppression,
Yeah,
not recognizing all the anger that the other person feels.
uh, uh, there's so much thoughts going in my mind. Have so much examples of. Well, I
Yeah,
probably am on both sides, uh, but yeah,
we are.
it's. Yes, thanks for recognizing that. But I think it's indeed the anger is not a negative emotion. Anger
No,
is an existing emotion. It tells us so much to us. You talked earlier about the invisible of the
yeah,
data that is there. Anger is such a powerful emotion. For me, the negative part about anger is the way we express it. If I would start fighting you, if I would start throwing stuff at you, that is
hmm,
the dangerous part. But
exactly.
if I can try to say it, even if I'm angry, say, "Oh, Anna, this is not nice. You make me angry." Okay, I might even raise my voice too much, and I know
Hmm,
that uh, we
hmm,
all have done that at moments that we do regret. But that still is for me kind of okay
yeah,
in the way that we're expressing it. We need to find ways, or I for myself, if I notice, and you talked a little bit about it, if we find this before, so if we find it earlier on, you said it at another question, I think, if I can tell it earlier on, hey, I feel that I get angry because you say something that is not respecting me, but that anger is important as a
it
message.
is. It is. And this is the metaphor of the title of the book. It's important to sit in the fire,
Ah, that fire. Yes.
that
Oh,
fire.
now I get it.
So
The fire of the
sit in that
interactions, the
fire,
fire of
exactly. Yeah. To make the fire extinct, you need to sit in it. So yeah,
thanks for bringing that up. I know that at some point you were thinking about a second book. I'm not sure if you still want to add a second book or you think let's
I
move to the next.
actually I don't remember which one that was. Can you remind me? I know that I
Yes,
mentioned
I can
Big
show you the
Brother,
book.
but I think that's yeah.
And I kind of think we talked a little bit about it before. Where did this is the
Oh,
book about
Lost
Lost
Connections.
Connect.
Oh, of course, of course, of
What do
course.
you want to talk about this book?
Oh yeah, John Harry. Well, it's a little bit. Actually, I realized it's related with what we talked about remote and COVID and loneliness.
Mm.
we didn't um it was really a book that helped me get stronger, something that I was kind of intuitively thinking. um and it's also about humans relations. And John Harry is he's a investigation journalist, so he's writing in that way, so everything that he's saying is based on a lot of research and interviews of expert people. So it's not I'm writing this because this is my opinion only. And he was diagnosed with depression when he was a teenager at 18.
Wow, at that young
Yeah,
age already.
yeah. And at that moment, the doctor said, well, you have a problem with the hormones in your mind. You just take this medication. Yeah, that was a thing. You don't
Yeah,
your mind doesn't create serotonin. So you just take this medication that will cr- uh,
and for the rest of your life, you have to take
and
pills.
you're good. And after, you know, 10 years after, what's the conclusion? He still feel depressed, and he needed to increase the
Double the dose
medication,
and
the
more
dose,
dose. Yeah.
and with side effects that are quite terrible, weight, and other. And he started to look into it, what are the causes of depression. And this is why it calls lost connection, because mainly what is says with brilliant examples is that in today's world we lost connection to ourselves. We don't know who we are because we are driven
Mm.
about images, have a perfect body, have this stuff, or you need that to be accepted in a group. And we lost connection, the true connection with others.
I really like that.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful message. The funny thing is, when I was looking for the book and looking for the image,
Mhm.
let me bring. I found actually another book that had almost the same title, and I think it's kind of. And I haven't read the book, so I don't know it, but I found it interesting enough to want to show it. Is that the lost art of connecting, and it
Mm,
immediately reminds me of. It's a similar thing as you just described.
yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was the same, but after I heard your story, it was like, hey, this actually feels a lot similar. Like, how do
Mm,
we connect to ourselves? How do we connect to the other world? We talked about remote world. We talked about. I found it so interesting earlier on. You said when we were teenagers, I was on the phone sometimes an hour with my
mm,
girlfriend or with friends from other
yeah.
parts of the country, and that was a way to connect. These days, I see a lot of people don't liking to call, but I see you have the nice example or the bad example of people at work not wanting to show videos. I
Hmm.
see my daughter in the morning sending, I don't know, 20 seconds videos to her friends. So
Yeah.
instead of just sending text messages or sending voice recordings that we used to do, she's sending a very quick a video
Yeah.
message.
It's
And
their
so there
new
is
way to connect. Yeah.
it's all different kind of ways of
Yeah.
connecting. And I think we I, I I wonder how different it is for these teenagers and children growing up, because it's all different. But I feel a lot as adults that we need to look, and because we're so much used indeed to connect
Mhm.
physically, and I do believe indeed that the moment that we can be together and can hug, there is a lot of advantage there. But at the same time, I think that sometimes there is also a part of the world that has found a different way to connect, and it's not the same. It's we need to um, grow that connection muscle. I would say find ways how we can connect with people in whatever works in our world. And for most of us, that would be much more physically. But sometimes I discovered that in Corona, at least, that I was able to find connections with people. But like your example, it was not by doing online aperitifs or online whatever, because that didn't work. It was more like conversations like this, or with maybe sending memes or whatever. But this, with different kind of people, it's different kind of things. But it's so much. And I want to check one thing for me, and I want to check it because it links to something you said earlier. For me, there is a lot about how do we find meaningful connections, and how do we make time for these things? How do we make time to do these connections? If it doesn't work to send, I don't know, to call you, if it doesn't work without video, what does work? Do you have anything in that book about tips for creating these kind of connections, or is there anything there?
There's something, I mean, you can connect in whatever way is meaningful for you. That's what I was saying when teens today connect through different apps and platforms. That's fine. It's their 1 hour on the phone. uh, because they will also get together at school, for example. That's fine.
Mm.
But when you're alone in your room with a kind of a, I was saying, ghosts around, all the time, although your colleagues are ghosts all the time, and what you are doing you follow some influencers on Instagram that you feel the need to be exactly like them. That's the pressure. You lose this connection to yourself because you need to be like others, have 100K likes. If not,
Yeah,
you're a loser. So that's a problem. I don't think that connecting and chatting on Instagram or Snap with friends is a problem. I say it's a different technology that we had. I was 1 hour on the phone, and no one could use the phone in my home.
oh yeah, and we got the bill at the end of the month, and it was like,
Exactly,
ooh.
exactly, exactly. So
I recognize, but thanks
yeah.
for bringing that up, because it's indeed about how we use it and how other connections are.
Mm,
It's it's I have a little bit it's same and it's not the same. When you say about they see each other at school, I saw that my daughter still has connections with people who are no longer in her school, so who moved on, and so she still finds way to connect with them. And some, I think even her best friend is one of her best friends. Not, I
mhm,
don't know how many
mhm,
best friends she has, but one of her best friends is definitely someone who's not anymore in one of the places where Seal still is. So it still is a more virtual connection. But it's a meaningful connection that finds way to connect. And indeed, like you said, during Corona or whatever, that was like the person to say, okay, let's go for an hour walk, because you were allowed to go in
mhm,
Belgium to see one other person. So that person, let's connect. And what I recognize what you say, for example, my 20 now 22 no 21-year old, no 22, we're mixing a lot of things up, 21,
my son is
was,
also 22.
yeah, so too much changes. But that son started in university during COVID, and so he was in the first year not allowed to physically see the people. And I have the feeling it makes it a lot harder to connect, because now he's in classes and there's less people, and there is, okay, he has a little bit time of ways to connect. But I do feel that if it was a kind of lost in that first year, and it makes it a lot harder. So
Mm,
I do think that that has an impact on some of these
mm.
things. Um, okay, we went very deep into that. Let's move, because we're almost at 2 hour talk. So let's move on to that for me, one of the most interesting questions, especially with you, is what question do you think I should also ask you, and what is the answer?
What is the question I would like to be asked? Um, when will we see each other?
Hmm. That is a very
And
good question, and definitely something to. Well, we do see each other now, but I think
I
what you
mean,
mean is when will we meet again?
when,
And
when,
that
when, when, exactly, yeah. When will we meet again and build something together?
oh, the build something. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's there is well the for the people who, well, we said it in the beginning, or I think I said it in the
Yeah.
beginning, we
You
created
did, you did.
coach retreat. We created coach retreat more than, when was it, in 2010, 2011, something like that, so 12 years ago. We've done a ton of them before Corona. We actually done one or two, I think, remote in
Exactly.
Corona.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
we tried to figure out, but after that, it's kind of died. Definitely, we need to find ways if we can reevaluate it. Um, Ale has been, you said it very good. It's at the end of November, at the end of August, which at this moment, with children having exams at university, is a hard no for me, in the sense that I definitely don't need to help my children, because they're all too, like Job is doing things I can't completely understand, so I can't help. But at the same time, I want to be there just to be supportive, even if they would say, "We don't need you, go away," whatever. I do know, as a parent, my place is at home at that moment. Um, but I do want to take the time to reconnect with you, and find times, because I've it's well, just today I already noticed, we said let's minimum the time, because I know you want to, you still have another appointment later on, today. I have some things that I need to check as well, and I still notice that it brings me so much joy, it brings me so much energy to do that.
Likewise. Likewise.
So I want to move to that next question, because I do think there's no answer, and there is mostly that desire to that
Yeah.
question. Let's meet again, and I think that's actually goes for a lot of people. So if you people want to meet me or you, let's also put it in the comments of YouTube, because I think
Absolutely.
many of us, we need to reconnect. So I want to move to that last question about, who do you think I should also ask next? Because I think you had one person in mind that was there to connect to.
Yeah, absolutely. I did, and I'm so sorry I can't uh, s- say her name, only her first name. She's a great person. Her name is Ornella. She's Lithuanian, and she organized.
That's she's right, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, the last name, what is it?
It's
Vasilauskaite? Yeah, I don't know.
exactly.
I will
Sorry,
ask her to
Ornella.
pronounce her name,
Yeah,
but let's indeed.
yeah.
But why should I invite her? Why do you think it's such a good person to invite?
Because she's a very open, generous person, working in agile. So she works in agile community. She organized ale in Vilnius, but
Hmm.
she's one of um, the ale aficionados since numbers of years.
I
Um,
thought I recognized her already a little bit, but I wasn't sure. So I'm thanks for bringing that up, because that probably means I've met it already before.
yeah,
But that's, yeah, that's a hard part with such great conferences like Ale, that you meet so many people for a year, that is not always clear. If I don't put enough time into that, did we actually meet already
yeah.
before, or not? So that actually is a very good point.
And she demonstrates such a bright way of leadership, of really being at service of the group of the people, and I think we all have a lot to learn from her.
That is a very nice. How would I say it? Yeah, that's indeed a very nice invitation. That's the word. Sorry, it's getting late. It's the word I was looking for. A very nice invitation about for her to make sure indeed that she gets invited and that we yeah that I have how would I say it? Yeah, that I have a conversation with her. We can talk about ale. We can talk about many different kind of things. Just like we have been today, it's close to 2 hours of conversation. Oana, if people want to connect with you, what is a good way to connect with you?
I think the best way to connect with me is by LinkedIn today.
And if I'm correct, that is your
That
LinkedIn.
is, yeah, yeah. I think I'm
Well,
most present there. Yeah.
I'm really grateful for the time. It took us a while because we had to reschedule for multiple reasons a little bit. Um, but I think this is a nice example of yeah, things happen and then we schedule and that was not a problem for when both of us we needed to reschedule. And it was for me worth 100% the time. I enjoyed it. I have the feeling I almost regretted not driving to Paris to do that, but of course, then the recording would be much more complicated. But I do like your question about when do we meet, and I promise I don't know when, but I have to. We have to do a coach retreat,
Okay.
do some kind of other way to reconnect because it's
Exactly.
we well you bring so much joy in my life. There's so much to talk about also on both on the work level, on the personal level, because we have so much things that we can keep talking. But I do know that you have an appointment and I want to make sure that you can keep that appointment. So thank you very much for your time, and I would say yeah, let's meet again.
Let's meet again. Thank you so much, Eve. Likewise, looking forward, and I've spent a delicious time with you. That was such a joy.
Thank you for
Thank you.
watching Who's Agile, where the stories of agilists come to life. I hope you liked today's interview. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and want to get to know other agilists.